Welcome back to the Kimi Kato show. Kimi, you're
Oh,
in
yes,
another
yes.
undisclosed location enjoying
Yes.
summertime, and that's the
hmm
topic, right?
Yes, indeed. We just went out with Aoi Sangosho by Seiko Matsuda and came back with 世界で一番暑い夏, released on July 16, 1988 by a band called Princess. I think it's a Japanese version of the Bangles, I think. I like them both. They were so Princess was a band that came out in the 80s. Bangles was, I think they were from early 80s, entire 80s. So Princess is definitely a band that was probably most likely influenced by the Bangles.
And that's we just had Vicky Peterson on the Mike Gormley show last week. Vicky Peterson from the Bangles, so I like that reference. She was amazing, by the way. Kimmy, I know you were a fan when
Yes, I
growing up and
was.
all that. Isn't it cool when you meet you meet them all the time, but when you meet a rock star or someone that has such a great, rich musical history
hmm
that's kind of weaved through the tapestry of our lives. It's kind of like our soundtrack, such as the Bangles. And it's
Yes.
when you meet them and they're cooler than you thought they would be, like they exceeded expectations. And Vicky was like that. I thought, you know how cool you are and how how successful you were, and you're just she's just a good person. So that's always like a sigh of relief, like, oh, I'm so glad you didn't ruin my impression of your
hmm
music and who you are.
I agree
um
with you. I
yeah.
remember having a Bangles poster in my bedroom when I was growing up, and then next to it, I had a Guns N' Roses poster. Um, Guns N' Roses was signed to Universal, although because obviously it was, my era was, I was I was much younger. So when started working for Universal, one of my goals was to actually work with Guns N' Roses in any way I can because they were my favorite band. And when I became a product manager, well, when was a product manager, when I was a label head, I actually went out and signed Slash and Duff Rose McKagan as well,
My
because
God.
only because I just loved them so much, and Slash is still one of my favorite guitarist of all times, of because the way it's not just his technique, but his aesthetic sensibilities towards his melody, and it's just so amazing that yes, I did that.
What? I did that.
No, no, no. So
That's a mild
that
brag. I love that. I did that. Yeah, that was me.
yeah, that
And
no, I
what was
did
that
that, and it
like,
was
Kimmy?
he was signed.
Meeting
He was just signed to Universal, and he wasn't signed to Universal for the rest of the other territories. It's just for Japan. So that was just a fun moment for me.
Yeah, of course, because how many days and nights did you look at that Guns N' Roses poster and listen to their
Every
music?
single night for years.
And then to sign them and to work with
Yeah,
them. I mean, wow,
yeah,
that's what do you
that was
call that,
awesome. I don't
in your
know.
life? What do you
I don't
call
know.
that?
And then, it was such a great time for me to be working at Universal Music because, a lot of the artists and music came from Universal, and I obviously didn't know that when I was growing up. If I remember, like Bon Jovi, Slippery and Wet, I think came out
That
when I
was
was
one of my favorites.
so
How old
13
were
years
you
old, right? I think I was 13 years old. I think.
when that album came
Yeah,
out?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. And then later you got to work
And
with him.
then, yeah, so I became I again, I think it was then fast forward 2003 or four, I think around that time. So 20 years ago, I was still junior product manager. I was a product manager at Universal Music in Japan, and I became a product manager for Bon Jovi for an album called Bounce, and then the next acoustic album called This Left Feels Right, and then a box set that I worked on. So, three releases that I worked with Bon Jovi. I traveled everywhere. I went to see, the band in New York when they were doing a massive NFL kickoff event at Times Square. I would go to Sydney, Australia to see them, and then they would tour Japan. They did the five Dome Stadium tours. I mean, they did all this, and I was with them throughout all this time. And that was also a fantastic moment when you as a kid listening to the band you loved, and then fast forward, I would say like 10 years later, you're working with them and you're with them, you're traveling with them, and you're traveling like a rock star without getting all the attention. So that was even better for me. And it's just it was a weird times.
Does it ever wear off like that? Growing up admiring them the way you do and respecting and loving their music, and then when you start to work with them, you meet them, like, do, are you ever nervous that when you meet them, are you like a typical fan, or do you have to keep it real, play it real cool because you're the executive and
No, I play it cool.
you play cool?
I definitely play it cool. I won't even say it. I won't say
You
that
won't
I
say,
listen to it. No, I
I
wouldn't.
had your poster
No, I
above
have
my
not said
bed.
it. Like
Yeah,
with artists like Yoshiki from X Japan. I listened to his music when I was like 15, 16. I absolutely love the band.
yeah,
But I've never mentioned to him that I had been playing his music, X Japan's music, at my boarding school in England where nobody knew, and the band called X Japan. I would play blast it in my room, and then my friends would come in. He's an English friend, local friends would come in, and I would copy them a copy of X Japan's music, and it was amazing to wake up in the morning and my friend across the corridor would be playing X Japan. He had no idea
uh,
what the band was singing, but didn't care, I didn't mention that to him. I have not mentioned when I
why do
work.
you play it cool? Is that the like the
I don't know.
correct etiquette? Is
I
that
think
why?
so.
Or
I
yeah,
think so. But the good thing is because I have been listening to their music growing up, it helps me to understand who they are. As in, I would know what I would need to do to
right.
present the band in the right way. I wouldn't. It's if I don't have a clue about the band, I would be more nervous, if you know what I mean. Like I would
Yeah,
be more nervous if I didn't know anything about the band and be speaking to the artists. I would rather feel a lot more comfortable when I know that I know these guys. Not personally, but I don't have to know them personally, right? As long as I know their professional career and I
you
know
know
it.
how they make you feel, how they make their fans feel, you know
Yeah,
their music. So
exactly.
that probably gives you even a more powerful, kind of like
Advantage.
a superpower, a secret power, that you
Yeah,
know them, but
yeah,
you don't
yeah.
tell them.
Yeah, I don't tell them, but I know that I understand their music. I know
Yeah.
their success. I've seen their success. I was one of the guys, one of the fans that
Yeah.
was supporting the artists all the way. So that's always an advantage for me working with the artists that I was a fan of. But I wouldn't really mention that I wounn't tell them I was a fan, you know. But
Mm.
I think they would know because these
'Cause
artists
you-
were so huge, right? They were just so monumentally big at that time when I was growing up. It's difficult to say I didn't listen to your music.
yeah. It would
If
be redundant almost to tell them, I'm such a big fan. I
Yeah,
love everything you
right,
do.
right.
Yeah.
And they'll be
It's like
like, yeah, yeah,
it would
yeah,
almost come off as not authentic, right? Or as
right,
not as
right.
not genuine.
Hmm.
Well, we got to take break in 2 minutes. Kimmy, should we talk about summer in Japan, the quintessential
I
summer?
think
Should we
so
do
too.
that?
Yes, let's begin.
Sure. Okay. You want to you want to start it out a little bit before we go to break, or do you want me to
Yeah.
take a break?
So, I wanted to talk about how summers are like in Japan, and I kind of listed out things first so that we get a context of what I was going to talk about. And I wrote out a list of highlights that make Japan or Japanese summer so special. Number one, it's unbearably hot and humid.
In
Then
Japan?
yes, in Japan, pretty much the entire country. Maybe not up north, less up north, but Tokyo, it's just unbearably humid. Obviously, it's an island country, so beaches everywhere. Lots of firework festivals. There's OBON festivals, MATURI summer festivals, TANABATA festival, which I'll go
Wait,
into.
what? Okay, you're going to tell us.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna
I'm
say,
going to
what are
go
those?
into it. But there's music festivals. There's lots of festivals. I think Japanese love to party, and there's just festivals after festival during the summer. And then there's beer gardens. So I've just kind of blabbered on about it, but I will go into it once after the break. So please look forward. Don't go away. You'll listen to the Kimi Kato. So we will be going out with another Japanese hit song. It represents the summer. It came out when I was a teenager, but it's still one of the biggest songs. It just is such a summer song that I had to put it in. It's called The Season in the Sun by Tube, released on June 1st, 1986. You're listening.